The Lord brought his precious child here. This is no moment they wandered into by accident. He called out, and something inside them answered. The miracle this believer has wept over during quiet hours when nobody else was watching. The very breakthrough they cried for in the dark. That divine miracle has already been released from heaven. It already carries their true name. It already has their exact address. And God brought them to this moment so they could hear this holy message directly. They must not leave. Let's witness this together, because what the Creator speaks into them will change absolutely everything. The Lord knows their pain, every single agonizing part of it. He saw every tear they believed went unnoticed. He heard every quiet prayer whispered when their strength failed and all they could manage was breathing His holy name. God was there in the middle of the night when they lay awake wondering if He still saw them. He was there. He has always been there. And today, we can see this plainly. Their long season of waiting is turning. What seemed so distant is close, closer than they ever allowed themselves to believe. He knows there are lonely nights when they questioned if heaven truly hears them, whether those silent cries reach upward. He answers that exact doubt now. Every single one reaches His throne. He has not missed one sigh. He has not overlooked one sleepless night. The Lord has not missed a single. The moment you carried much more than you ever should have carried alone. He sees everything. He knows the heavy weight of it, and He is deeply moved. You matter to Him with a depth that human words simply lack the reach to completely express. Let us declare our amen in faith. Your miracle never depends on exactly how perfectly you have prayed. It has nothing to do with how many hours you spent praying on your knees, or whether your trust remained completely steady every single day. It rests on His grace, and His grace is far greater than every failure you have ever accumulated. His mercy reached you long before you even knew to look for Him. Before you ever spoke His name, He had already carved yours into the very palms of His hands. You are His. You have always belonged to Him, and truly nothing, no failure, no distance, no deep darkness, no enemy can snatch you from His hands. The devil has tried hard to convince you otherwise. He has quietly whispered that you have drifted too far, that the gap between you and Him is too wide to close, that whatever is shattered inside you is far beyond what He can repair. He lied. He always lies, because He secretly knows the holy truth that He does not want you to ever discover. The exact day we finally understand what His divine grace means for us. His grip over our lives is exhausted. The weary soul tried holding absolutely everything together by their very own strength. The Creator watched them do it. The sleepless nights, the heavy weight on shoulders, the struggle to keep moving forward when every single part of them wanted out. God saw them stand up when rising made zero sense. He watched them keep pushing when quitting would have been so much easier. That required true, undeniable strength. But let us look closer now. They were never designed to carry it alone. The human heart was made for God, to let the Father carry what gets too heavy for mortal shoulders, to lean on divine strength when human strength is depleted. Earthly strength has limits. Divine power does not. Human resources dry up. God's grace never will. Mortal understanding always hits a ceiling. The Almighty's wisdom has no end, and God freely offers every good thing from everything He holds, without fail, because that is exactly what a father does. For a beloved child He holds dear. You and I know exactly how it feels being young and utterly terrified of the dark. A child runs fast to someone who deeply loves them, feeling every anxious fear dissolve the second they are held. God is that ultimate heavenly Father. His loving arms wait wide open today. It does not matter what mistakes were made, how far the soul wandered, or how long it has been since they felt close to Him. The Father's embrace has never moved. His endless grace has not dimmed. Every single dawn He has been waiting for them. God stands ready to hold you when you return. His love for you was never built upon your performance. It was never earned through your own faithfulness or forfeited by your past failures. His love simply exists, and it always has. Before your first breath, before you had done a single thing, He already loved you with the absolute fullness of who He is. That divine love did not change on your worst day. It never even flinched in your absolute darkest season. His grace followed you when you turned away from Him, quietly and patiently, just waiting for you to turn back. Declare you believe if His message is reaching your spirit today. You and I must understand something vital about this exact moment. What you are walking through right now is absolutely not your final chapter, not even close. He is the creator of brand new beginnings. He is the Lord who takes what the enemy sent to destroy you and completely turns it into the most powerful testimony that anyone has ever heard. He is the Father who builds something far more beautiful from shattered pieces than what could ever have existed without that painful breaking. Not just a patched version of the old, but something entirely new. You have been staring at your own life and only seeing what it is. He is looking at your life and clearly seeing exactly what it is about to become. Those are two drastically different pictures. What seemed like a delay was never a denial. God was working right behind what you could see. You could not watch it happen, but He was quietly arranging everything. The Creator moved people, shifting timing circumstances into perfect position. He ensured none of your waiting was wasted. Not a single tear was meaningless. Every painful night carried a very specific purpose. God uses everything and wastes absolutely nothing. Every difficult season you have faithfully endured, including those that truly hurt the most, has been carefully woven by His hands into a divine plan meant to astonish you. We must stop measuring the Lord's power by the sheer size of the obstacles faced. What feels completely unmovable to you is never unmovable to Him. What seems like a solid wall with no door is never a barrier without a door for Him. He is the Almighty who split the sea when there was simply no other way through. He is the Creator who breathed life back into situations that were completely dead. God is the one who took a young boy with absolutely nothing but a stone and a strip of leather, bringing down a massive giant that an entire army was too terrified to approach. That exact same God is here, completely present, fully engaged, working on your behalf right now. Let's quickly consider Joseph, betrayed and sold by his brothers, falsely accused, and imprisoned for years, despite never doing anything wrong. It looked hopeless. Every door was shut, every single hope deferred. Each day looked exactly like the end of the story. But God used every day in that darkness, shaping His path toward a royal palace. Every harsh injustice was forming the character of a leader who would soon stand right before kings. What His enemies meant for ruin, the Lord, He turned down the exact road leading to His destiny. He couldn't see the grand design from inside the prison, but the Creator saw it from the beginning. Let's consider how the Almighty works with a soul. Every difficult season is woven into their divine preparation. Every locked door pointed them toward the right one. Every person who walked away made room for someone the Lord provided. Every hard rejection fully protected them from whatever might have held them back from the glorious yes heaven had already prepared for them. They couldn't see the beautiful pattern from inside the trial, but the divine saw it from the start, and the master plan is more beautiful than anyone realizes. Let's look closer at divine timing, that painful gap between the faithful asking and the final receiving, because God knows that silence has tested believers. They prayed intensely for a breakthrough and expected a fast, clear answer. They asked for a massive miracle and looked for results the very next day. They grow completely exhausted from the endless waiting, wondering if that painful delay itself is a sign that God's ultimate answer is no. The answer is not no. It has never actually been no. When the Lord asks His followers to wait, It's never because he has forgotten them. It is because the Creator is preparing them, along with the answer at the same time. What God is giving them right now requires the stronger version of them that the process has built. If heaven granted the request the very first time they asked, they probably wouldn't have been truly ready to hold the blessing wisely. The waiting built essential capacity within them. The hardship developed profound depth within them. The harsh trials refined what was already locked inside you. And what finally emerged is something priceless. The Almighty thinks in generations. He plans for pure eternity. He isn't just fixing your most immediate problem. God is establishing a foundation that your children and their own descendants will safely stand on. When he takes his time, it's because what he is crafting is meant to last far beyond your single lifetime. Now that heavy season of preparation ends. Everything he arranged in the hidden auras shadows is ready to step into the light. Your divine moment has arrived. Not next year, not after another strict condition is met. Today, in this exact breath, in this quiet surrender, there is something else the enemy has kept hidden from us. Let's examine the true nature of faith together. The enemy tries to make us believe that faith is entirely passive, that it means merely holding on quietly, waiting for a miracle to happen from outside. But genuine faith is active. It moves. It boldly declares. It claims what already belongs to it by right. Real faith does not ever beg. It stands on the Creator's word, saying, "This is completely mine, because the Father said so." That kind of belief moves massive mountains. That powerful faith unlocks what has always been sealed. That kind of fierce faith never accepts permanent defeat, because it knows His Wort ist absolute, and His divine word speaks life. We need that exact kind of faith to rise in. For you, He wants you to stop constantly claiming your daily struggles as if they somehow define your future. Your earthly problems aren't the final word here. God alone holds the final word. And what He has spoken over your daily life is victory, true wholeness, rich abundance, and purpose. Speak those truths aloud, not because saying the words magically makes them any more real. They're already entirely true. But speaking them out loud perfectly aligns your own spirit with what God has already finished on your behalf. Your spoken words matter. Whatever falls from your lips literally builds an anatase atmosphere. Whatever you focus on rapidly expands in your perception and lived experience. Let's stop making the enemy huge and God tiny inside our own minds. Magnify the Creator. Let His immense greatness flood your inner world until deep fear finds absolutely zero room to settle, until heavy doubt has nowhere left to rest. The Lord is larger than any single problem you're facing. He is more powerful than every dark force that has ever moved against you. He remains much more faithful than the longest delay has tried to stubbornly make you believe. You and I know this situation won't right. Your ultimate final chapter, exactly where you stand now, is nowhere near where you're headed next. God already knows the entire road from the beginning to the very end, because He was standing right there at the start. The Creator is already waiting at the end. Everything waiting for you on the other side of this hard season is worth the single step you have taken through the deep darkness to reach it. His deeply precious child. There is an action He is calling you toward right now, not because God needs anything from you, but because the faith that only stays inside your mind never truly takes root in your life. He is asking you to make your trust visible with a real action. Release a fraction of what rests in your hands. Plant it as a seed into His kingdom, just as the widow of Zarephath placed her final handful of flour before she had spotted a single sign of provision coming. She possessed nearly nothing. What she offered made 0 sense by earthly logic. Yet she fully obeyed, and the flour never ran dry. The oil never stopped flowing. Day after day, week after long week, God's supply arrived. This reveals the eternal law of the seed. Whatever you release in trust, the Lord returns in abundance. So, into the work He is doing here, place it gently on His altar of purpose and watch closely what God does next in your life. Today, let us uncover exactly who the Lord is, because the enemy has twisted the picture of God inside your mind, and he wants to correct that. The deceiver painted the Lord as distant, as a ruler who sets laws and watches from afar to see whether you actually meet them, as someone who feels disappointed in you much more often than He is pleased. We often picture a God whose love has terms and conditions you must constantly be earning, but that is not who He is. The Lord is your Father, not a courtroom judge looking for reasons to rule against you. He is a Father who sees you fully and loves you without condition or reservation. His love for you does not switch off when you fail. It does not grow cold when you doubt. His love never retreats when you are at your worst. It remains steady, faithful, immovable, because that is the pure nature of who God is. He is the exact same yesterday, today, and always. His divine promises do not expire. His word will never change to match the mood of the passing season. What He spoke over your life when He there first formed you in the hidden place, He is still speaking right now. Every single word of it still stands. None of His truth has been revised or recalled. The plans God has for you, plans for a bright future and a hope, are not plans the Almighty made lightly. They are plans He has held across your entire life, through every sudden detour and every failure and every hard season where it looked like everything was going in the absolute wrong direction. And here is something we both need to hear clearly. God does not require your total perfection. He truly never did. The Creator does not need you to have it all sorted. Before the Almighty can bless your life, He requires one simple thing from you: trust, surrender, a faithful heart that says, I cannot do this on my own, and I am finally done trying. This kind of spiritual surrender isn't weakness. It is actually the most powerful stance you can possibly take, because the moment you step entirely aside, the Creator steps completely in, and when He takes charge, nothing feels impossible. You have been bearing the massive weight of things that were never yours to carry around, pressures that belong to someone else, deep anxieties about what tomorrow might bring, constant questions about if you are enough for the path ahead, the deep worry that if you stop pushing, it all falls apart. Let's be completely clear about something here. The holy things He plans to do in your life will never crumble when you release your exhausted, frantic grip on them. They will actually thrive, because those things were never kept in place by your sheer effort. They were held securely by His hand, and they always will be. Rest, not as pure passivity. Rest is about deliberate choice to trust Him enough to stop carrying what He never actually asked you to hold. That spiritual rest is waiting for you right now, not after you fix every single problem, right now inside the messy and unresolved, because His lasting peace is not something He gives only when the dark storm breaks. He provides it right there inside the roaring storm. That is what makes His peace different from anything this empty world offers. The world only provides relief when situations finally improve. He offers peace that stays perfectly steady while the situations are still shifting, because His peace is never based on circumstances. It rests entirely on who He is. The Maker sees those dreams you quietly abandoned, the ones you hid away because you feared facing another bitter disappointment, those hopes you simply stopped voicing because it hurt far too much wanting something that just never came. He placed those very desires inside you, never as some cruel joke, not as impossible fantasies meant to torment you with. He put them there as clear signposts, pointing toward the exact life He designed you for. Those sacred dreams are not dead. They are certainly not buried beyond recovery. They are just quietly waiting, and that difficult waiting is almost over. when he brings them to life, and you will completely understand why his timing was exactly what it was. You will finally see he was not withholding from you. He was preparing you for the complete experience of what he originally had in mind. Nothing God gives you ever arrives before you are truly ready to receive it well, and you are ready today in ways you were never ready before. The long wait was never cruelty. It was pure kindness. A painful kindness, yes, but divine kindness nonetheless. Now let's look at exactly what the enemy has been doing lately. The adversary worked so hard keeping you confused about who you really are. For years, dark voices have been telling you that you are simply not enough, that you are far too broken. The enemy calls their past a mark against them, a stain that cannot be removed, that the good life is meant for other people but never for them. We know these weren't random thoughts. They were calculated strikes against a very specific truth, because the devil knows the very day someone fully walks in that divine truth, his dark hold on their life is over. True identity is never formed by what someone has done or failed to accomplish. It is not built from what other people of Dablu said about them. It does not stem from human successes or bitter failures or those painful chapters of a story they desperately wish they could erase. Their true identity was actually decided by God long before they were born, and the Creator decided, well, they are His beloved children. They carry the Lord's very Spirit. They are chosen vessels of the living God. That means they hold genuine authority. They possess real power. They have an inheritance in this kingdom that reaches far beyond what the natural human eye can see. The spiritual attacks have been fierce because what God has prepared for them is significant. The devil pushes hardest right when the Prestons' breakthrough is almost here. He fights the most fiercely just before the major shift arrives. The heavy pressure they have been under is not proof that they are actually losing. Let's look closer. It proves their victory is near. They absolutely must not quit. They cannot abandon faith right when the Lord is about to move on their behalf. You and I should examine how God works, because He doesn't always show up in the form people expect. You and I know that people often picture exactly how their miracle should arrive, through what specific person, event, or timing. Yet sometimes, God's children miss what He is doing because they are watching for one specific shape, and He arrives in a completely different form. Their spirits must remain open. They remain sensitive to His voice. They stay alert to what God places in their path, even when it looks perfectly ordinary. He works through everyday people, through conversations that seem completely casual, but are actually perfectly arranged, through new opportunities that open in highly unexpected places, through sudden ideas that arrive at unexpected moments, through exactly what the world calls coincidence. He is deeply in the details. He exists in the moment when things align in ways no mortal hand could have ever arranged. Let's learn to see Him there. When they do, anxiety loses its heavy power over them. The desperate need to control every outcome begins to finally release. They begin to rest, truly rest, in the certain knowledge that their Father has this. Absolutely all of it. Believers state their trust if they believe this message belongs to their lives today. The message now shifts to something they might have completely stopped asking for, something they quietly set aside because the asking had simply hurt too many times. They told themselves perhaps it was just not meant for them. Perhaps they had completely misread things. Perhaps hope was a luxury they could no longer afford. Let's listen closely. The believer certainly didn't misread it. The Creator hasn't forgotten a single request they brought to Him in quiet faith, not even one. He safely holds them all, and many of those prayers are now incredibly close to their final answer. They prayed for profound physical healing. That healing is theirs. They begged for provision when the math made absolutely zero sense. Divine provision is already moving toward them. They pleaded for total restoration in something that felt hopelessly, entirely broken. Nothing is beyond his immense power to restore. They needed a clear path forward when every single road looked closed. He is the God who carves roads in the wilderness, fresh rivers in the desert, creating doors in solid walls that held no doors until he spoke directly to them. No obstacle they are currently facing is too massive for him, not the terrifying fear that keeps them awake, not the painful situation that has dragged on for agonizing years, not the fragile body that simply hasn't responded, not the ruined finances looking totally beyond repair. For God, what looks like an absolutely unmovable mountain to them is just something he moves with. A single word. What feels like an impossible, uncrossable sea to them, he confidently walks through alongside them. We know that isn't mere poetry. That is simply who the Lord is. The divine miracle he is releasing into their life isn't merely meant to solve just one problem. It's designed to show us all exactly who he is. He is not some distant God in a distant place. He's the God standing right here, intimately close enough to actually feel. The Lord who walks right beside you. The Creator who knows the true weight of everything you have been carrying and has come to lift it. He does not want to be your emergency contact alone. God wants to be your daily companion. Tell him your joy, not just your pain. Let's include him in your plans, not just your crises. Bring the Almighty your dreams right alongside, your heavy burdens. He wants to be part of every moment of your daily life, not only those times where everything has completely fallen apart. He created you for true closeness with him long before anything was broken. Before the great separation, there was a closeness that felt natural and full and entirely uninterrupted. Let's look at what he is restoring, not just your outward circumstances, your daily connection with him, because absolutely everything else flows from there. You and I know every single blessing has its ultimate source in how closely you are walking with him today. You aren't the same person who originally entered this bitter season. You know things today that you could never have learned any other way. You possess depths now that simple comfort alone could never have produced. You hold a spiritual faith that was proven in very real fire, and that kind of faith carries an authority that borrowed belief never has. So do not be ashamed of what you went through. Those hard chapters are not your disgrace. They are your lasting credential. Those battles give you the absolute right to speak truth into the life of someone who's still trapped deep inside that storm you survived. Declare that you receive this today. If your heart remains wide open, your miracle is never just for you alone. Everything the Lord does carries a much larger divine purpose in mind. God blesses one person so that the blessing flows right outward. The Creator lifted David so a nation could be led. He elevated Joseph just so a generation could be fed. The Lord positioned Esther so an entire people could be completely saved. And he is lifting you up so that something far greater than your own personal need can be served right through your life. You will become a steady voice of genuine hope for somebody who is rapidly losing theirs. You will be the walking, living proof that God still moves, still heals, still restores, still builds fresh roads through places that had absolutely no path before. Your personal story carries heavy weight precisely because it is deeply real, because you suffered in the absolute dark before you finally stepped into his light, because you know exactly what it truly feels like to wait, to wonder, and almost give up, and you still push through anyway. That kind of raw testimony does not just inspire people. It actually transfers faith. When you speak from that scarred place, something shifts inside the spirit of whoever is actually listening. Now let's take a closer look at the core of what the enemy has fought so hard to keep you from fully grasping their true identity, who they really are. Let's see how the enemy worked to install a false picture of themselves inside their minds. He used the voices of outsiders who simply did not know their entire story. He used their own past failures and the shame that came right alongside them. He used heavy seasons of harsh rejection and disappointment, all of it aimed at one single goal, making them believe they are entirely small, that they do not carry absolutely anything significant, that all better things are reserved for others. But we must understand, they are never small. They are not ordinary in the way the enemy weaponized that exact word against them. They are God's children. They carry His Spirit. They are chosen vessels of the living God, which means they carry divine authority that reaches far beyond what the natural eye can measure. The enemy knows exactly what power they carry. That is precisely why he fights so desperately hard to make them completely forget it. Their miracle is not just some sudden change of circumstances. It is a total change of identity. It means moving from seeing themselves as a helpless victim to walking as someone who overcomes, from living like an outcast to walking as a child who truly knows their Father, from holding out their empty hands for scraps day after day to sitting at a table that was fully set for them. We see many believers live far below what God perfectly designed for them. And listen closely, not because He ever withheld it, but because they accepted a false picture of themselves that was simply never true. They live like outsiders in a home they truly own. Let's be clear, they are no stranger here. They aren't on the outside looking in. They are the child for whom the table was prepared. This holy inheritance was crafted for them. The blessing bears their exact name. They must walk in as who they are, never with arrogance, but with the quiet, settled confidence of someone who knows exactly who their true Father is and exactly how much that Father loves them. The Creator declares they are valued. He states they are divinely chosen. He calls them capable of far more than they ever allowed themselves to believe. He proclaims them as the one He delights in. When they start believing what God says about them, rather than what the enemy has planted in their own thinking, everything utterly shifts. The way they carry themselves changes. The way they speak completely changes. Their very expectations begin to change, because they stop living from a weak posture of utter defeat and start moving from a strong posture of inheritance. We know not everyone is chosen for that kind of assignment, but they are. They were set apart for it long before they were even born. The hard process they walked through was never random suffering. It was their spiritual formation, their divine equipping. They now carry something that simply cannot be taught in any ordinary classroom. They carry deep understanding that was built through lived experience, compassion that was born in real pain, authority that was forged in genuine trial. We see these three elements make you someone through whom God can move in truly powerful ways. The people He is sending toward your life are already in motion. The opportunities He is opening are already unlocking. His provision is already in transit. The peace He is placing over your home is close enough now to sense. None of this is something you will need to strain to produce. It comes as the natural overflow of a life surrendered to Him. That is always how His abundance moves, not through striving, through trusting. God wants us to expand what we believe He is capable of doing, not out of greed, but because many of His children accept far less than He intends for them. Disappointment has trained them to hope small. Pain has taught them to keep their expectations low, so the falling does not hurt as much. He understands how that happened, but He is asking you now to believe again, not in your ability to hold on, in His ability to deliver. Those are very different foundations to stand on. He is the God who formed galaxies with a word. He is the God who breathed life into dust and created a living soul. He is the God who holds every sea in the hollow of His hand. Let's remember this same God. This power is fully directed toward your situation right now. Your problem is not large to Him. It never has been and never will be. Your words hold more power than you realize. Whatever you declare over yourself creates an atmosphere. God needs us to stop declaring what we say and start declaring what He promises. Stop treating your daily problems as if they're permanent. Start confessing His divine promises as though they already belong to you, because in His eyes they absolutely do. Stop letting the enemy look massive in thought while making God look small. Magnify Him. Let His greatness completely fill the space inside you until fear has nowhere left to hide, until doubt finds no corner to rest. The change He is bringing to your life starts deep inside you before it ever shows outside. That is always how His process works, and that internal shift is already happening. Right now, as His message reaches the deepest parts of you, something is moving. Your faith is growing. Your spirit is being rebuilt. A fresh certainty is quietly settling right where uncertainty lived. For us, that is the miracle starting, not the end, the beginning. To His beloved, He wants to tell you something now about those people who have hurt you, the ones who left when they should have stayed, those who spoke bitter words over you that weren't true, and they carried that hurt far longer than the betrayers deserved, those people who selfishly took advantage of their profound trust. Stick with me here. The Creator knows each name, and He needs them to hear His truth clearly on this. Carrying that bitterness remains a crushing weight that was never theirs to carry alone. It doesn't truly bind the guilty. It only weighs heavily upon them, and God never created them for that exact kind of slow, punishing heaviness. He isn't asking them to pretend what those betrayers did was somehow acceptable. It absolutely wasn't. He is simply asking them to release the right to carry that dark debt. Hand it over to Him. Let the divine be the one who handles it. The second they release it, something inside them deeply unlocks. Something gripped tightly for a very long time begins to truly breathe again. And inside that newly opened space, He can bring forward something far better than bitter resentment ever offered them. We know they weren't built for a life of simply surviving. They were uniquely designed for a life of genuinely living, a journey of meaning, of divine purpose, of profound, settled joy that absolutely does not rise and crash with shifting circumstances. That vibrant life isn't locked behind some hidden door they just cannot find. It is the exact path He is actively moving them toward right this second. He has prepared beautiful relationships for them that will be unlike anything they have ever experienced before. Spiritual connections that carry genuine depth. Kindred spirits who will see what is inside them and call it forward rather than ever suppress it. A profound sense of belonging that they may have nearly abandoned all hope of finding. These blessings are coming. Some are already remarkably close. And when they finally arrive, you will feel the shift immediately, because they will bear the mark of divine arrangement, which is exactly what they truly are. The Almighty prepared clear opportunities for you that perfectly fit who He created you to be. Listen closely now. These are not generic chances, specifically crafted moments. Doors shaped for your highly specific calling, exactly like a key turning a lock. When they finally appear, they will never feel like effort. They will feel like destiny, like stepping into a life you were always born for, because you absolutely will be. Now let us look together at the holy law that governs His eternal kingdom, the sacred law of seed and harvest, because understanding this rule permanently changes how you view every act of giving you have ever accomplished, and every future act of giving He will soon ask of you. Whatever you plant, you will reap. This is no vague spiritual concept. It remains a precise heavenly law that operates with the exact same reliability as any physical law across the natural world. If you plant generosity, you reap pure, overwhelming abundance. If you plant love, you reap that love returned and beautifully multiplied. If you remain faithful in the small things, you earn greater responsibility over much larger things. This divine principle never fails. God wove it into the very fabric of how His heavenly kingdom works. The Creator has watched the faithful sow. He saw when they handed their last to someone who had even less. He noticed them sharing, even when they barely had enough for themselves. He watched them offer their precious time and their remaining energy when their own spirits ran completely empty. He saw them plant seeds of true kindness in quiet moments when nobody else was looking. Those scattered seeds sank into the earth, but we know they never died there. Seeds never perish in divine soil. They just wait. They quietly develop underground, where our human eyes cannot spot the growth. And then at the perfect moment they push through. Their promised harvest is breaking through right now, not in a mere trickle, but in the absolute abundance only heaven pours. The Lord does not bless in tiny measures. When He opens His hand over any life that remained deeply faithful in the sowing, He opens it completely. What they planted through long years of devotion is returning to them multiplied far beyond what was initially planted. That is the divine promise. That is God's exact nature. Let us remember, the released blessing is not meant solely for them. The Almighty thinks in eternal cycles. He elevates one so that person can bless many. He lifted up Joseph so he could feed a nation. He honored Abraham so that all the families across the earth could be reached through his lineage. When God lifts the faithful, the blessing does not just stop with them. It freely flows through them to their children, to the souls God places in their path, who truly need what they carry, to those future generations not even born, but who will build upon the foundation they are laying right now through their devotion. Their quiet obedience in this season is creating something that easily outlasts them. The choices they make to completely trust Him, to push forward, to firmly refuse to quit. These aren't just private personal choices. They are massive generational shifts, and they matter much more than anyone can see right now. Soft music plays. Let's take a moment to look directly at the deep weariness inside them, that specific kind of heavy fatigue that comes not merely from plain physical exhaustion, but from years of dragging heavy weight that was simply too much for one soul to carry. The profound weariness that stems from fighting endless battles that seem to have no finish, from constantly hoping, facing bitter disappointment, and hoping yet again, from rising back up so many times that the act of standing up felt exactly like the pretil, only skill they still knew how to do. The Creator sees that weariness. He knows exactly how crushing it feels to them. And the Lord isn't just standing at a distance, watching it with cold detachment. It deeply moves Him. They truly move Him. Their pure faith in the middle of that utter exhaustion, the amazing fact that they remain present, still actively seeking, still reaching toward heaven even when the reaching this point took their absolute everything. To the Creator that is never small, He calls it remarkable. That is exactly the faithful spirit the Lord knows exactly how to use, but He absolutely refuses to let them keep running on the blast empty. God wants to fill what feels so utterly drained. He plans to restore what those long, painful seasons took. The Almighty desires to give it all back, not merely the sudden spiritual miracle they have been waiting for in their difficult circumstances. Strength, joy, the pure lightness felt when a heavy, crushing burden is finally genuinely lifted. The precious ability to laugh again without it ever feeling like a lie. The strength to hope without immediately bracing for another letdown. These divine gifts belong to them. He is bringing them now. Let's watch Him send new people. The Creator sees that some of the deep loneliness they carried was simply the quiet, profound isolation of feeling like nobody truly, deeply understood what they were really going through, like they had to keep the crushing weight of it completely hidden, because fully sharing the pain would be too much for anyone around them. God understands that exact feeling. Stick with me. He wants that soul to know that He is sending a person who will understand, someone who has survived going through something similar, a person who will recognize what they have carried and never flinch from it. The bitter isolation those brutal seasons created is not their permanent condition. True community is coming. Genuine, deep, and safe community. The kind where they can finally set down the drop the performance. Simply be known. God asks them not to block what He is sending, just because the very last people they trusted let them down. His divine faithfulness is never limited by human faithlessness. What others completely failed to be for them, God is able to seamlessly provide through other people, the right people, people the Creator chose specifically with their particular unique needs in mind. The heart must open, not carelessly, but truly open it, because what God is placing in their specific path is truly worth being open to receive. You and I know nobody should walk alone. God never designed that for His faithful. He designed believers for a relationship with Him and for vital connections with others who carry His Spirit. And both of those spiritual bonds are being restored in them right now. The thick walls that went up to protect them from further deep hurt are coming down. Not all at once, gently, just one stone at a time, because He knows how long they took to build them, and He will never be careless with the fragile trust it takes to dismantle them. Let's trust Him with this too. They must trust Him with tender places, with the chapters of their story they have protected most carefully, with the quiet hopes they barely dare to hold. The Lord can be trusted with all of it. He has always remained perfectly trustworthy, and this time, on the other side of their brave surrender, they are going to discover His peace in a way that removes every single remaining doubt. You and I can find a lightness waiting on the other side of this profound surrender that hasn't been felt in a very long time. Let's look at the true freedom that arrives when you let go of managing every single outcome and simply trust the Maker who holds everything. He is not asking you to become passive or to ignore the deep wisdom and abilities He gave you. God is just asking you to stop using those gifts entirely apart from Him, to stop running this entire life all alone when your Heavenly Father stands nearby, totally ready to guide you through everything. Bring Him your future plans. Hand over your deepest questions. Offer up your big choices before you make them, and even afterward when things do not unfold as I hoped. Give Him your joy during the everyday moments, not just your tears during the desperate times. Let His presence be woven into the fabric of your daily life, not only those terrible crisis moments, because a profound spiritual connection like that truly changes absolutely everything. Not some distant deity you page for emergencies, a Creator who remains constantly present forever, the quiet, unbreakable anchor holding down every single moment of your entire life. That is exactly what He offers you today. Not merely a quick miracle, Himself, all of His presence, for every part of you, and every blessing flowing from that bond is far greater than you have ever been able to imagine it. Let's anchor this final, powerful truth inside the deepest center of your spirit. You walked into this very moment carrying a heavy burden, a deep weariness, a nagging question that simply refuses to fade, a fragile hope that took a beating but never completely extinguished. They arrived with a tiny remnant of faith and survived everything that tried to crush it. And that remnant, that small, persistent, undefeated little flicker, that is exactly what heaven honors. The Creator needed nothing more, not a mountain of belief, just a mustard seed. And they carry far more than a simple seed. They hold the very faith that survived the bitter journey most others would have abandoned. That kind of faith isn't small. It is incredibly rare. It is truly powerful. And the Almighty moves on behalf of that kind of faith. Let us observe the spiritual season opening up ahead, not in vague, empty words, in clear specifics, because God wants His children to know what they are stepping right into. The heavy confusion that clouded their minds is finally lifting. The atmosphere shifts. The dense fog that made the very next step completely impossible to see is clearing. They will soon begin to hear the divine voice with much greater clarity than they ever had before. not because heaven will suddenly start shouting more loudly, because their inner ear is being carefully tuned. The worldly noise that distracted them is fading, and in the sacred quiet that remains, his gentle voice will become absolutely unmistakable. Let's watch the closed doors open. Not just one door. Several pathways that felt permanently blocked are being fully unlocked right now, even ones they had stopped expecting. The Spirit moves. You and I know some promises, surprised believers, who found they were still hoping, but God remembered every single one, and He has been working on all of them. The divine timing is converging. The seasons are perfectly aligning. Let's watch as things begin moving. The people God is removing from the path were truly holding believers back, even when they did not clearly see it. The souls the Lord is sending forward are perfectly fitted for who these believers are becoming. They will be recognized immediately. The faithful will feel the quality that God built right into those new connections. They will not feel like simple coincidences. These moments will feel like answered prayers, which is exactly what they truly are. The heavenly provision they have been waiting for is already set into beautiful motion. Some of it will arrive in completely new forms that no one could predict. We must keep our eyes open and our spirits discerning. What the Lord sends does not always arrive wearing the exact expected label, but when it finally arrives, the faithful know something deep inside them will recognize the hand behind the blessing. And through all of this journey, through every open door and every single answered prayer and every restored relationship and absolutely every new provision that arrives, their hearts must remain postured toward Him. Let these blessings increase their deep gratitude rather than their own self-reliance. Let every single miracle point them back to the Lord who actually performed it, because that is the true rhythm of the abundant spiritual life. Receiving grace, then giving sincere thanks, then giving back, then receiving once again, a continuous cycle of His divine goodness, flowing perfectly through a life fully surrendered, drawn to Him. Let's explore the life they are stepping into, not flawless, not without real challenges, but grounded, deeply purposeful, and full alive in ways they haven't felt in a very long time. And it starts right here, right now in their quiet moment of yes. The path ahead is finally clearing, not all at once. The Creator never reveals the entire road, because the massive scope of it would overwhelm them. But the very next step is visible, and the one after that comes into focus. The second they take this one, we see exactly how He leads. One faithful step at a time, always close enough to guide them, always present enough to steady them when they stumble. Everything the Lord promised He will surely bring to pass. Every spoken word over their sacred life remains completely true and entirely available to them. Every single tear they sowed will produce the harvest of joy that heavily outweighs the weight of whatever it cost them. Every dark night was simply the exact setting where their spiritual breakthrough was being prepared. The morning is finally here, not a dawn that fades back into shadows, a permanent new day. They move forward from this moment knowing they do not walk alone. They never did, and we know they never will. The love that chased them through every closed door and heavy season of waiting is walking right ahead of them into everything that comes next, making the road perfectly straight. He prepares things you have not yet seen. He opens doors you never even knew to ask. God holds you. He sees and delights in you. And the work He began in your life, He will carry forward to a full and glorious completion. That is never just a wish. That is His solemn word, and His spoken word does not return empty. Say yes if you are ready to step forward. This channel runs strictly on viewer support. For exclusive member videos, simply scan the QR code or check the pinned comment. May God bless you.